In any war, there are those who consider themselves winners and those labeled as losers. But sometimes the winner doesn't even know the war was happening. Let's transport ourselves to Australia in 1932. On one side we have soldiers of the Royal Australian Artillery armed with Levis machine guns. On the other side, birds, a flock of giant, flightless, yet freedom-loving birds. And spoiler alert, the army lost. Today we are breaking down how Australia officially declared war on emus, and why the feathered enemy turned out to be better tactician than World War I veterans. After World War I, the Australian government attempted to resettle over 5,000 soldiers turned farmers in the westmost state of Australia. The conditions in this region were harsh, with poor soil and irregular rainfall. The onset of the Great Depression in 1929 hit these farmers even harder. Wheat prices plummeted, and the subsidies promised by the government were never delivered. And then they arrived. A severe drought in 1932 causes the migration of 20,000 emus. They saw the cultivated fields and irrigation canals and decided, oh, it's all-you-can-eat buffet. The emus broke fences and trampled crops. Through the holes in the fences, rabbits also entered, another Australian plague. The farmers couldn't do virtually nothing about these problems, so their anger and frustration were directed toward finding a radical solution. They found an ally in Minister of Defense George Pearce, who believed that sending professional soldiers to help the farmers would demonstrate the government's serious commitment to veterans' issues. To solve the problem, a unit of 2 soldiers were sent under the command of Artillery Major Meredith. They were armed with 2 Levis machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. November 2nd, the first engagement. The soldiers spot a flock of 50 emus, but as soon as shooting starts, the birds scattered, forming small, fast-moving groups that are difficult to hit. The result? A heap of waste ammo and killed about 2 dozen birds. November 1st, an ambush at the dam. The military waited for 1,000 emus to approach the water. They opened fire at point-blank range. The machine gun jumps after just 12 shots, since the birds scattered. Major Meredith was in shock. He noticed in his report that the emus have leaders who watch the horizon and signal alarms. The soldiers realized, you can't catch an emu on foot. A genius idea: mount the machine gun on a truck. It was disaster. The truck shook so violently on off-road terrain that the gunner couldn't aim. Furthermore, the emus ran faster than the truck. It turned out that emus have tough hide, so a glancing bullet from a machine gun rarely led to death or serious injury. Meredith would later deliver a legendary line.
If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks.
A week later, news of the failed Emu War was everywhere. When politicians discussed creating a medal for the conflict, they joked that the emus deserved more, since the birds have won every round so far. When the army retreated on November 8th, after 6 days of fighting, 2,500 rounds had been expended to kill between 300 and 500 emus. Meredith noted that his men suffered no casualties. Even with the troops gone, the emu rampage continued. Desperate, the farmers begged the government for assistance a second time. Minister of Defense George Pearce, who earned the unofficial title Minister of the Emu War, decided to send the gunners back on November 12th. This continued until December, when Meredith and his men were first to admit defeat and retreat. The Australian army had lost to the emus. They used up almost all 10,000 rounds, destroying 986 birds. That is 10 bullets per bird, an economic failure. In the end, the problem was solved not by machine guns, but by bounty system. The government started paying locals for every bird. This worked better. In 6 months, 57,000 emus were destroyed. The Emu War may have ended in military defeat, but it cemented the bird's status as a symbol of survival and adaptability. Since 1999, They have been protected under Australian environmental law, and their population remains high. Over 600,000 wild emus live on the continent. Yes, Australia is an amazing place. Everything wants to kill you, and even the birds are bulletproof. Be honest, do you think you could take an emu in a one-on-one fight? Let me know below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. There is much more interesting content ahead.